Thank you for listening to the Midwest Horse Fair Outside the Arena podcast, where we share wonderful real-life stories and expert advice from the equine clinicians and entertainers from around the country who have been a part of the largest 3-day horse fair in the USA. Our first series will include several interviews conducted during the 2024 fair. This is Kelly Kinney, the Midwest Horse Fair Coliseum announcer, and we hope you'll all stick around and learn more about the fascinating lives of these experts outside the arena.
Welcome to the Midwest Horse Fair podcast. We are sitting here with Diane Carney. If you want to just go ahead and introduce yourself and kind of talk about your background a little bit.
Thank you very much. It's nice to be here, Jess. Sure, Diane Carney. I'm an equestrian my entire life. Hunt seat, English, hunters and jumpers. Everything from starting riders in their very first riding lesson to currently having FEI horses with Margie Engel that are currently still showing. A big part of the Hunter Derby getting started in the United States. I've ridden and shown my entire life. Went to college, ended up not getting into law school. They said they'd pay me to ride horses, and I've never looked back.
Absolutely. So then, how did you get started? One, horses, but two, in what you're doing specifically now?
My mother grew up on a cattle ranch in Goodland, Kansas. We lived in Denver, Colorado, and she took me for a trail ride. There was a Quonset hut next to a place where we would go and swim, and they'd play golf and all that. And the way the story goes, I was too little to remember. Once I went for the trail ride, I would never go back to the golfing and tennis and all of that.
To water,
so,
right?
Yeah, I pitched a fit. So riding started that way, and with a great instructor, a lady that is rest her soul. She's passed away. Her name Louise McConnell, awesome instructor out of the Golden, Colorado area.
Yep.
And
beautiful place.
She got me started, and I've never looked back.
So you've been all over the country to compete and provide instruction. What are some of the best places that you've had an opportunity to travel to?
Oh, Caitlin, that's a broad question.
Really? Okay. Yes.
That's a broad question. Everywhere, really. I mean, California, Wellington, the Midwest, Texas, Chicago is a hot place for horse showing with great facilities. Kentucky for sure with Kentucky Horse Park. Just really whatever level of horses I had was more important than where I was going. I wanted events and facilities and shows that offered the level I was jumping, because it takes a little while to get proficient, balanced, if you'll say, or I'll say, as an instructor and a judge, a USEF licensed official. It takes time to get balanced on a horse, and those people entering the sport or in the sport know that it takes a little time to get your balance on a horse riding on the flat. Just like barrel racing, just like pole bending, just like reining, just like cutting horses. I mean, you have to have your balance or jumping isn't going to work out for you.
What drew you to jumping specifically? That you were like, this is my niche. I want to be doing this.
As a little child, as a 6-year-old, 7-year-old, I saw the older kids jumping. And I, of course, wanted to immediately go and do that. And by the grace of God, Louise McConnell never said no, yes. She waited till I was ready. But I remember I jumped X's, all these courses of X's. For sure, I felt like it was an eternity. It might have been a month. But at any rate.
When you're a kid.
Yeah, when you're a kid, right? But I remember still to this day, and I'm quite a long way away from that first jump that I took when I was 7 years old. We're talking 61 years ago. I remember the first vertical I ever jumped on Smoky M, and I've never won. That was it. And it's been that outstanding my entire life, really, spending time with hunters and jumpers, doing all the different things my career has taken me to do. So I'm happy to give back to the sport.
Let's talk about those special horses a little bit more. That's part of the game, right? Is we work with a number of horses, across our lifetime. And is there one that specifically stands out to you that whether they were challenging or they were just great?
There are so many. You're being very specific, asking for one.
Come on, you can't choose.
And I also have to thank all the owners that have owned these horses, and they're special in different ways. I'm going to pick two.
Okay.
One in the Hunters. His name was Texas T, owned by a great lady by the name of Mary Ellen Lau, and I had great mentorship from a gentleman named Don Stewart, who's still in the business. Great mentorship in how to go with this horse. But this was a horse that people had passed on, and I didn't know that. This was before the era of live feed and videoing everything. So this would have been the 90s. And I just loved it. It was a great horse. It matched the lady that was going to buy the horse. And the proof is in the resume. He was champion 30 or 33 times in the green conformation in his 2 years of doing the green conformation, and is on the trophy at Devon as the high score horse. So I think Kenny Wheeler also has passed away, but I had the opportunity. He had a box at Devon that you go up the stairs and you stand right behind it. And when my horse went and I was not the only hand clapping, I realized maybe that was a good round in the amateur owners.
Yep.
And Mr. Wheeler, being the horseman that he is and was and still helps us all with his style, turned around and said that was a very good round. And interestingly enough, that gentleman, that was the only conversation I ever had with him. Many others have had years of conversations. That was the only one. But by the time we jogged, because they were single classes, as they still are at Devon, not back-to-back, as some people listening might know, that happens at the regular horse shows. Okay. But he knew more about my horse than I knew about my horse. And this is before the era of computers and social
media.
Yeah, he knew everything. And that's just how great an example of horseman that Kenny Wheeler was on so many levels, but that was one. So I was proud of that horse. Mm-hmm. And the second one is a horse by the name of Charlebois. He's a Grand Prix jumper, so a different category. Mm-hmm. And that horse took me everywhere. And when we sold it, he ended up a month later being second in the American Invitational, which is a meter 50, 55 class that was held at the Raymond James Stadium in Tampa. So, I mean, this is where sport takes you if you're a student of sport.
Absolutely.
And that's where horses have taken me as a student of horses.
So you've done quite a bit of instructing and training. And so in your opinion, what makes a good student or horse owner? What kind of client do you want to take on?
Well, Caitlin, in the beginning, everyone is new. Okay. So everyone has no idea other than a love for the animal or a desire to learn, or it was something of maybe a parent's background or a grandparent says this would be good for your child because they had ranching in their background or something. Most of the time, everybody starts out as a great client, and they are. I don't know that I won't say that I've ever had a bad client. I've had clients that don't fit with me, that I advise that they may fit someplace else because they're looking for more local goals as opposed to national goals. But as far as instruction goes, every parent wants the safety of their child, or should, or will eventually catch on to that. Safety is the number one job of any riding instructor. And I teach all over the country. I teach every level. And always I'm interested in the safety of the tack, the safety of the rider's balance. That's how we create safety on a horse. And the suitability or the match of the horse with the more novice, amateur, junior rider. The professionals, we work on them riding all sorts of horses. But early on, the match of a real good horse, a school horse to start with, not the fanciest one. We're not going to go and get the Ferrari for the 16-year-old to drive as the first car. Yeah. But if they get their skills up, when they get their skills up, and they do get their skills up in the riding lessons, then those horses are just out there as the next opportunity, as their competition goals and needs carry them.
You mentioned earlier tack and quality tack. What is something that you will always reach for in your barn? And I think I ask this because of social media, and there's always going to be some sort of trendy thing that people want, or trendy product that people want to have in your barn. What is something that you can't live without in your barn or in your tack room?
Cotton lead shanks.
Oh, okay. Why?
Long cotton lead shanks. Well, here's the deal. If you've ever loaded a horse with a nylon lead shank, and many of your listeners will have, they are nodding their heads right now listening to this saying cotton lead shanks, because it will take the skin right off your hand if a horse has a disobedience, either walking backwards out of the trailer or to the trailer or coming in from the paddock. Long cotton lead shanks.
All right.
No product name.
I was going to say the sales on cotton lead shanks are about to explode when this podcast.
I have a short story if you want to hear it.
Please.
So I did commentary for equitation finals. It was a local finals in Chicago, and the first couple of riders were coming in, and I was saying they look great. Their horses are turned out. Their position is correct. Their boots could be a little more polished. I said that about 2 or 3 times. Well, then I got a text from one of the tack shops, and they said, "We have sold out of boot polish." So the good news is people do listen, because this is information that I make no endorsement products or anything like that. This is just tried and true 65 years of being in the barn.
Yeah.
So who do you go for when you need advice? I mean, people could go to social media for advice or a trainer, but who do you still go to for advice when you need something?
Don Stewart.
There you go. You were very quick on that answer.
Oh,
Why?
Absolutely. Well, he's the best horseman in the country. He does everything from getting riders started to the top at all national finals, including owning Grand Prix horses that are competing in the meter 50s, and who knows about the Olympics in Los Angeles. I think Paris is a little early for some of his horses. He is honest. He is true. He is a sense of humor that we are blessed with to be around. And I've always said being around him makes me better as a horseman and better as a person. But he's the guy that I bounce my ideas off of. And frequently he says that is a big hill to climb. That is a lot to take on. And that was one of the conversations he had with me prior to when we started the International Hunter Derby in 2007. And now the resume of the Derby is, whatever number of years it's been, 16 years, whatever. And it's changed the sport. It's a word in our sport now. Do you have a Derby horse? Is there a Derby class? We want to watch the Derby finals. And that's why I keep for the National Show Hunter Hall of Fame, which is run by Jimmy Williams and his group and Sherry Robertson they do a dinner at Devon every year at the Cricket Club. And many of your listeners will know what I'm talking about because they're members of the Show Hunter Hall of Fame, and they've seen this video, which is a history of those classes that are on the trophy that gets presented there.
So our next question is going to be a little bit of left field, so let's get ready for it. But who is Diane Carney outside the arena? What are some of your personal hobbies or interests outside of horses that you can say that you participate in?
Community service.
Okay.
I'm big on giving back, both in sport and in my community. I ride an e-bike now that I'm 68 years old.
I love that.
I found that during COVID, and I'm taking an e-bike tour in Scotland of the castles out of Edinburgh, and it's quite a nice trip. Wow. And then, so I travel quite a bit.
Okay.
I read a lot. I love movies, but they have to be very G-rated movies because I don't like a lot of the violence and all of that. But I love documentaries and those things. But I'm outdoors a lot, especially on the e-bike. And so I would say I don't have much of a sense of humor. My friends would say I do, but it's pretty dry.
We love it. We're here for it.
I'm very direct. I'm all in. I'm really about sport all the time, but yes, I take a break from it. I did an e-bike tour of the Grand Canyon, the rim of the Grand Canyon. So I'm guessing now these days that's something that I very much enjoy, and it's good for me not to get out there, but on a spiritual level, it's good for me as a human being, and it keeps me grounded relative to knowing who I am in the world and being right-sized and all that.
Well, hopefully you can make some time here at the Midwest Horse Fair to go take an e-bike and ride around the lakes and the terrace would be an incredible opportunity.
That's a great invitation, and maybe at some point when I get back here, I'll be happy to do that.
Yes, we would love to have you back. I know the clinics were great.
So kind of wrapping up, what is like your one piece of advice you would give to someone either going to get into your industry or just starting out and jumping?
First, I would like to clarify that before we're a business, we're a sport. And so remember that the rider is an athlete. The horse is a vehicle, but unlike programming your GPS, it is not always predictable, and you need a horseman at the helm, and you need that proper matching, that proper entry horse, so the rider can get their confidence up. And I'll give you an example quickly. I went to Reno to teach, a real good professional, and she said, I have a young child, but she's a little timid. And the pony was a nice pony, but it was rooting, and the kid was little. She in an English saddle. It was basically pulling her out of the saddle. I said, you need to get in a Western saddle, because I start most of my beginners all in a Western saddle. I started in a Western saddle. Many Olympians that I could name started in Western saddles, because you just get a better seat, you get a better security, and you have a horn to grab onto if you need to. And you're stronger being able to steer the horse, all of those things. There's much, much more, but those are just the hot button points. So we got her a Western saddle. I went and borrowed one from somebody that I knew in Reno, which was lucky. And we put a Western saddle on, and we lunged the horse to make sure the horse was not fresh. And then we put an adult on to make sure the horse didn't buck with the Western saddle. Then we put the little kid on, and I put her on a lunge line. She was doing great. And in 10 minutes, she was cantering when she had never cantered in her life. Her grandmother was in tears of joy watching this kid finally get her sea legs. So I think the most important thing is that you have somebody that isn't afraid to think a little bit out of the box from their own experience. Yeah. My experience brought me to that answer. I started Western. We rode Western in the morning and English in the afternoon on the same horse. We did pole bending and gymkhana and pleasure and equitation and hunter and jumper on the same horse. The horse was exhausted by the end of Saturday, but we were having a ball, and those are the types of horses you want. A jack of all trade that a little kid can lead, that a kid can tack up themselves, that has good manners, and you need a horseman to do that. And so how do you find them? Word of mouth. You go to a horse show and you watch and see who has good horses. Yep. And you walk up to them and say, hi, my name is John Doe, and I would like my daughter to ride, and where's your barn? You look like, you might be somebody that we'd like to take lessons with. I mean, you just have to, that's sort of how it happens. We lucked into it. I lucked into it because the Quonset hut was next to where the golf course was. And it happened to be exactly the right answer. And then my career has also continued with great mentorship. I'm still a student of the sport. I'm always improving my horse IQ. I've always been focused on tack fitting correctly, and I've had experiences that have trained me up even more so on that. So, I just can't say enough about stay with good people that have quiet horses, that teach good riding lessons. You'll tell. Ask people that are riding with them how it goes, how long they've been there, and don't be in a hurry, because the watch is not the time clock. The way the horse-rider combination gets along, that's your clock. Yeah,
they truly have your best interest in mind. Yes, that's very important.
Safety first.
Safety first.
So for our listeners, if they wanted to get in contact with you or maybe follow some of either social media or your journey as you travel all over the place, how would they find you?
I have a website. It's called DianeCarneyUS.com. And I endorse or sell zero products. There's nothing on there other than my schedule. So that's number one. And then I'm on Facebook. You can messenger me easily on Facebook. When we do commentaries, we frequently take questions from all around the world, because the live stream on the product that puts the live stream out is worldwide. Yeah. So frequently when we're doing commentary, I get a lot of messages in conversation, questions. Can you talk about this? Can you talk about that? And so we try to be a resource as often as we can, but I'm pretty available. My phone number is easy to find. I answer my phone, but DianeCarneyUS.com is the website. And feel free to contact me anytime. I'm happy to answer questions. I had a lady recently that came to me when I was teaching a lesson, and she said, I haven't taken writing lessons in 25 years. Who should I start with? And I said, well, where do you live? And that's the first question, so that she finds somebody in the vicinity, and then go from there. So, I mean, it's easy to get in touch, and I'm happy to try to help.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you so much for being here and sharing all of your wisdom.
Thank you very much, Jess.
Thanks for being a part of the Midwest Horse Fair.
Thanks, Caitlin.
The Midwest Horse Fair is proudly presented by the Wisconsin State Horse Council Incorporated for over 40 years. Net proceeds from the fair are used by the Wisconsin State Horse Council to promote the equine industry through leadership, education, service, and communication, as well as taking a proactive role in the future growth and development of the equine industry. Thanks again for listening to the Midwest Horse Fair Outside the Arena podcast, where we share stories from expert horse clinicians and entertainers. We hope that you enjoyed this episode and continue to tune in every month and learn about the lives and hear valuable advice from the folks we are proud to have join us at the fair. Learn more about the Midwest Horse Fair at midwesthorsefair.com.
It's not a horse show, it's a horse fair, and you gotta be there. It's the great Midwest Horse Fair.